Hello, users, and welcome to another episodic installation of Above It All. And today I'm going to be talking about a bunch of protests in Israel. So, first, I would like to say if you are supporting these protests or if you know anything more about them and can provide any information for them, I would appreciate that. It's hard to find info about countries that I don't live in, especially if I don't already have those connections. So I would love for you to provide me any sort of journals, blogs, news outlets that I can trust for information, because all I got right now is I got a little Reuters article and I have this Twitter thread, and I'm going to look down the Twitter thread after reading out some of this Reuters article. Now again, I would like actual perspective here. I've been looking for it, and if you want to send me some links or anything that you want or think that I would like to know about this, please do so. So, "Your time is up," read the giant letters projected onto a building at the protest site as demonstrators waved Israeli flags and called on Netanyahu to resign over what they say is his failure to protect jobs and businesses affected by the pandemic. For those of you that don't know, Netanyahu's he's best friends with Trump. Trump did the whole embassy with switching to Jerusalem thing that kind of cemented, the Zionist agenda. He's like one of those far-right clown fascists like Boris Johnson, Donald Trump, Modi, Bolsonaro. Like, it's just like in that same vein of like openly transparent, corrupt, fascist losers. The protest movement has intensified in recent weeks, with critics accusing Netanyahu of being distracted by a corruption case against him. He denies wrongdoing. Netanyahu, who was sworn in for a fifth term in May after a closely fought election, has accused the protesters of trampling democracy and the Israeli media of encouraging dissent. Dissent is always good, by the way. Netanyahu's right-wing Likud party on Saturday called the protests left-wing riots. Where have we seen that before? Really makes you think. And accused Israel's popular Channel 12 News of doing everything it can to encourage the far-left demonstrations of the premier's opponents. On a busy highway overpass north of Israel's commercial hub of Tel Aviv, demonstrators waved black flags and chanted slogans while cars honked their horns from the road below. One protester, Yael, said she lost her job at a Tel Aviv restaurant and that the government aid has been slow to come. Doesn't that sound familiar, my fellow Americans? You'd think that a once-in-a-lifetime crisis like this would push Netanyahu to act, and it hasn't. Enough is enough, she said, declining to give her last name. Israel in May lifted a partial lockdown that had flattened an infection curve, but a second surge of COVID-19 cases and ensuing restrictions have seen Netanyahu's approval ratings plunge to under 30%. Many restrictions have since been lifted to revive business activity, but unemployment hovers at 21.5%, and the economy is expected to contract 6% in 2020. So, one of the things there is this is what we've been waiting for all across the world, and especially for me in America, is when people are being evicted, losing their houses, losing their jobs, losing everything they have, what else do they have to lose? That's when people get into the streets. When people are starving, if enough people are starving, that's when shit happens. And so, these protests, I don't know everything about all the organization of them, but I do know there's a lot of clips in here there's a lot of very good messages. Free Palestine, it's just been very, very interesting, recalling for elections, because the elections in the Middle East's only democracy aren't really democratic because Palestinians often aren't allowed to vote, for example. So this is one of those situations where you have a lot of stress on a system, and then people can utilize that stress, that systemic collapse, the empire collapsing, all across, the right-wing axes of evil right now are failing their citizens. Bolsonaro is in the hospital, and he is not helping his fucking civilians in the state of Brazil. Donald Trump is not doing a damn thing in here in America. Instead of having a rent moratorium, he's kicking the can down the road, maybe stalling evictions another couple of months while rent paid, piles up, sending kids to school, which are death sentences, and then cutting Social Security. You've got Boris Johnson, whose first idea for this pandemic was herd immunity, and then once he realized tens of thousands of people were dying, he was like, whoa, wait. But the genie was already out of the bottle. You've got so many examples of these far-right governments failing to act on every single turn. And as a result, when people are homeless, when people are starving, when people are jobless, it's very easy to convince them and to tell them, we need to band together. We need to work together. And as a group, we can help each other survive, because we do not live in an individualist society like these far-right nationalists want you to think. We live in a society that says we work together. When you go to the grocery store, how do you think that food gets there? When you go and order delivery, how do you think that food gets to your door? Because we work together to help each other. We don't need far right-wing leaders to fuck around with our lives. We can do it ourselves. We can figure out all these systems ourselves. And so it's very, very, very heartening to watch this stuff happen internationally. There's a lot of protests in Lebanon as well after the recent explosion in Beirut, which I have not covered much because I'm going to be honest, I know next to nothing about Lebanon. I'd like to learn more. If you have anything that you can send me, I would appreciate that. And so again, it's just super heartwarming to see a lot of these protests happen. And it is a little horrifying that not everyone's wearing masks. That is horrifying. I don't know what to say about that. I really don't. But at the same time, our governments are failing. Everything is failing. Everything is failing. Everything is falling over. Capitalism is in decline. And so the far right axes of evil across this globe that we call Earth are finally, maybe they're not realizing it yet, but they're finally getting pressured. If something happens in Israel, that's going to have a reverberation effect all over the world. Same thing if something happens in America, that'll have a reverberation effect all around the world. Same with Brazil, same with India, same with, Hungary, for example, same with Poland. There's all these countries, and that's the thing, is it's a global capitalist failure. Everything that we've been taught about economics, about how the world works, was bunk. It was all lies. I'm 24 years old, and I know there's lots of people that are older than me that have been brainwashed for longer periods of time. But what you need to understand is we have nothing. You might have a house, you might have a car, you might have something. We have nothing. The young people today have nothing. We're living paycheck to paycheck. We're barely eking it out, and we're barely existing. This is something that cannot be sustained. And again, it is an international crisis. Look at this. It's great. An entire generation demands a future. Exactly. That's the thing. Right-wingers don't understand. Sure, the boomers will probably die off just in time, but if you're Gen X, if you're a millennial and you're a right-winger, I'm sorry, what are you doing? What are you doing? Do you think you're going to be Donald Trump or Benjamin Netanyahu? Do you think that that's going to be your future? If so, what are you reading? That is no future. There is no future for far-right fascism. I'm sorry, but it just doesn't really exist. All across the world, we're seeing these far-left Antifa riots everywhere. Why is that? It's because the world decided, you know what? Capitalism is shit. We want a chance too. And that is extremely heartwarming. It's extremely beautiful, and you just love to see it. Protesters cleaning up after themselves, I like that. There was a lot of that in Portland, in America as well, which I absolutely adored. And again, like it's just like some really good stuff. Like, and it's scary. It is scary going out there to protest. But like, what else are you gonna do? Work together. If we band together and we group up, there is nothing that we cannot accomplish. Because in reality, 99% versus 1%, the numbers are on our side. We just need to stop falling for propaganda. So again, if you've got any more information on this, I would love to see it. I am very American centric, but I do want to expand more outward. I am very, very internationally aware, but I'm not super educated. I didn't go to college. I didn't fucking finish high school, so I don't know that much about a lot of these governments. If you have books that you want to recommend to me, I would love that. If you have articles, journals, blogs, people to follow on Twitter, or just stuff like that, send them to me. And if you want to spread this information, feel free. I will link this Twitter thread and the Reuters article in the description, and if you want to supplement that in the comment section, I will pin your comments or love your comments or reply to it and say thank you. So I appreciate that. In solidarity across the world, this is an international struggle. When someone in Israel is suffering, when someone in Palestine is suffering, when someone in India is suffering, when someone in El Salvador is suffering, when someone in Australia is suffering, we are all suffering, and that's what you need to understand. We are all together. There is no such thing as race. There is no such thing as nation. We are humans, and we need to work together. And if we work together, there is nothing we cannot accomplish. Thank you.